Look, if you want to be a man and lead like a man, then you got to read like a man. That's right. You got to read books. If you aren't reading books, man, you're missing out. Because remember, readers are leaders. If you're not diving into books that help you grow, then you're missing out on leading yourself and others effectively. Now, reading is a wonderful way to balance out both our masculine and feminine energies. Because remember, leadership is masculine energy because the masculine does. But when you're reading, you're also in the feminine because you're receiving the information. So reading is a great way of balancing both the masculine and feminine energies inside of us. We're shifting our mindset and forging new ideas and creating new pathways for our life. So why wouldn't you want to embrace the power of leading? Now, for me, I love audiobooks. I like listening to them when I'm in my car, when I'm doing something that doesn't require a lot of attention, like yard work or cleaning. Now, some people probably would argue that this is kind of cutting corners, but I see it differently because whenever I stumble on a book that really resonates with me deeply and I've been listening to it, I also then go and I purchase the paperback or hardcover version. This allows me to delve even deeper into its content. So in 2023, these are the top 5 books that I read, and I wanted to share them with you today. These books will help you really understand yourself from a energetic, physical, spiritual, emotional, and just practical self. But before we do, I want to ask you for a small favor. Would you be willing to hit that like and subscribe button? It really means a lot to me, helps this channel grow, and it helps other people find the content. So help a brother out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. There you go. Boom. Thanks. All right, let's go on. So my first book is called Open Her by Brody. Now, this is kind of a sleeper. See, I generally don't gravitate towards books written by women. It's not really a conscious choice. It just seems that I'm drawn to the masculine books that are on relationships and masculinity and that kind of thing. But Open Her is a remarkable exception. I mean, this book dives deeply into the psyche of the feminine mind and how she is attracted to the masculine energy. It is divided into 7 archetypes. And what makes the book truly stand out is her perspective on, as a woman, she provides valuable insight into these archetypes and into what it means to be a man. And it's not just another book about winning a woman's affection. It really goes deeper. It gives a profound understanding to the interplay of the masculine and feminine. It really gives an interplay to the masculine and feminine energies. Now, Brody also uses her personal relationships and experience to illustrate her points, and she offers real-world examples that clearly delineate what is attractive and what drives the feminine and what drives the feminine away. It's a masterful blend of personal narrative and universal truths about attraction and connection. Now, Open Her might not be on every guy's bookshelf, but it should be. It's a treasure trove of wisdom for men who are eager to understand and engage with the polarities of the masculine and feminine, and I can't recommend it enough. I find myself suggesting it frequently to the men that I work with because it really is a deep dive into understanding these dynamics. So don't miss out on this one. I'll put out an affiliate link in the description so you can grab a copy. Book 2, right along the same lines as the first one, is delving into the dance of the masculine and feminine energies and how they're intertwined and spark connection and attraction, is written by one of my teachers, John Wineland. And I've been part of John Wineland's Embodied Masculine Leadership Program for the last year. I was a participant last year. This year, I'm leading a small group. And the experience has been a game changer for me because it deeply transforms something like from the core. And that's the name of the book, From the Core. By John Wineland. Now, in this book, John distills the essential teachings from his live seminars, and he breaks them down into really actionable techniques and practices. It's all about cultivating consciousness and the noble masculine that uplifts and protects the feminine. It fosters our relationships and it fosters our communities. Again, practical wisdom in this book. It's not just theoretical. It offers real pathways for you to deepen your connection with yourself and the feminine. Now, one of the biggest takeaways from this book, From the Core by John, is how we as men fail to confront and work through our own pain. John points out that if we can't manage our own emotions, it's unlikely that we can be trusted to take care of someone else's. So it really starts with self-discovery, and how you show up in relationship is how you're going to bring awareness into the depth of the connection if you start with yourself and you learn to connect with yourself deeply. So if you don't know John Wineland, he's an incredible teacher. He spent over a decade with David Deida, author of Way of the Superior Man, under David's tutelage. Trust me, he knows his stuff. I highly, highly recommend this book to anybody who wants to explore the dynamics of the masculine and feminine. Also, I'll put a link in the description. Now, book number 3 doesn't necessarily target men specifically, but it's incredibly impactful. It's called The Tools. It's called The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels. Now, I first discovered Phil Stutz's work through a Netflix documentary presented by Jonah Hill, the actor, who is actually a client of Phil's. And Jonah was so impressed with Phil's approach that he created this documentary because he wanted to shed light on Phil's methods. And it piqued my interest, so I grabbed a copy of the book, read it, was great, attended a seminar held by Phil, and started using the tools in my own practice. In the book, Phil outlines 5 tools that are designed to foster courage, creativity, willpower, and pushing you towards a life of relentless forward momentum. The underlining theme about this book is facing adversity. Now, these tools are practical, they're straightforward, yet immensely powerful. They offer ways to soothe our nervous system, boost courage, and to tap into our actual inner authority, especially in high-pressure situations when you're forced out of your comfort zone. Phil starts to also delve into the spiritual realm. He discusses the higher force that seems to be all around us, and it transforms more than just willpower. It's an external energy, an external source that we can harness to overcome our fear and challenges. I think the thing that resonated most deeply with me was the psychological insights that Phil brought to the work. He explains how traditional therapy is really failing people, and that as a therapist, I've felt many of the same way that Phil has felt about working with people, that we don't offer enough answers. We just offer a lot of reflection, and The Tools is an incredible book that offers answers on how to get through difficult situations in life. I was thoroughly impressed by the documentary and the book. Phil has a unique take on psychotherapy and actionable solutions. I highly recommend The Tools for anybody who is, facing a challenge in life. And it's just really good for your own mental health and your own mental well-being. Highly recommend The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels. Book number 4 is called Built to Serve by Evan Carmichael. And it's not a men's book, but it addresses issues many, many men struggle with, and that is living with a clear purpose. Now, I've been working with Evan for the last year as part of his community and his expertise that he has around growing brand and YouTube channels, but most importantly, helping people discover their life's passion. Now, the crux of the book, as the title suggests, is a belief that we as humans are inherently built to serve. Evan points out that oftentimes we'll drift away from our true passion and purpose when we're not serving others. Now, the book is particularly relevant to men or anyone really looking to break free from an unfulfilling job, the corporate lifestyle. Evan points out how most people wake up each day and they drive to a job they despise. But in Built to Serve, he not only guides you into finding your passion, but helps you to learn to start to work from a place of service. It's about creating businesses that serve others and that you find fulfillment in that service. The book is a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to, get out of that 9-to-5 job, who wants to be more in alignment with their passions. Highly recommend it. Especially for those of you that are considering getting into entrepreneurship, coaching, thought leadership. I'll put a link down in the description and also a link to Evan's YouTube channel, because Built to Serve is a personal journey of Evan himself. He recounts his struggles to find his purpose, to find self-belief, and how he grew his YouTube channel from about 3 subscribers, which were his mom, his sister, and a friend, to a community. I think it's somewhere over 2.5 million people right now. It's an inspiring story for anyone who's thinking about launching a YouTube channel or, like I said, becoming a thought leader. The book is engaging. It's really easy to read. And a little side note here. I was flipping through the book and I found this fortune cookie that I had put in here. It says, "You will be unusually successful in an entertainment career. So I hope you're entertained. How fitting, how prophetic. Anyway, consider the book, its content. I'll put a link down below. Okay, moving on to book number 5 is Gatekeeper by Shawn Smith. Now, even if you're remotely considering stepping into a relationship, this book is essential to read. Shawn, who happens to be a good friend of mine, lays out everything you need to know about relationships in this book. He covers what to look for in a partner, the skills that you need to bring to a relationship, and the qualities that make a relationship thrive. Now, I had the privilege of checking out an early version of Gatekeeper before it hit the shelves, and I was so struck by his meticulous attention to detail, his writing. It's just spot on. He blends insights with practical advice. Now, he draws from his experience of working with men in relationships as a psychotherapist. Shawn uncovers the common pitfalls that men fall into when seeking relationship and those that lead to dissatisfaction and misery when it comes to being in a relationship. Now, what makes this book stand out is its emphasis on taking charge and leading in the relationship. It's about self-governance and making sure that you don't end up with the wrong person. Shawn challenges you to be introspective and understand what draws you into unfulfilling relationships in the first place. The book is a guide to finding inner confidence to be a leader. So it's not just about your relationships, it's about how you lead in life. Gatekeeper is packed with invaluable insights. It's about empowering yourself to establish a healthy and fulfilling relationship. It's a must read if you're in a relationship that's dissatisfying or you're thinking about getting into a relationship, because relationships are complex and you need clarity and confidence. And speaking of Gatekeeper, I had an amazing opportunity to sit down with Shawn for an in-depth interview. We took a deep dive into the concepts of the book, particularly focusing on the dynamics in relationships with the feminine. If you're interested in exploring these insights further, I put it right down here someplace. So go ahead and click on that because you're really going to watch this interview. And if you found this video helpful at all, if you like these books, these 5 books, any of these books, go ahead and get yourself a copy. Spread the word. And thank you so much for joining me on this video. I'll see you next time.